Much, Kirsty. I want to show a couple of charts to just remind us of what's at stake, and then tell a little story that will take a couple of minutes. Could I have my first chart? I hope you'll have it. There we are. Yeah, you know, I like to emphasize the climate impacts that are irreversible. We are at a point now where it's extremely dangerous. We are at the point where if the planet gets much warmer, we are going to get instability of ice sheets and sea level rise of at least several meters. And the consequences of that are almost incalculable. Half of the large cities in the world are on coastlines. The other thing that's irreversible is extermination of species. If we stay on business as usual, IPCC estimates that by the end of the century, we could commit a quarter to a half of the species on the planet to extinction. And then, of course, there are lots of climate impacts that we're already beginning to see and which would get a lot worse. Could I have the next chart? And this is my last chart with words, but I want to remind us that there are some tremendous injustices in this climate change. One of them is the intergenerational injustice. Our parents did not know that they were causing a problem for future generations by changing climate. But now we can only pretend that we don't know. We have the potential to leave our children with a situation that is out of their control. The second injustice is the North-South. The climate change is caused almost entirely by nations, the developed nations of the North. But the consequences are felt more strongly by the nations at low latitudes, who did almost nothing to cause the problem. And then the third injustice is one species to all of the other millions of species on the planet. We're essentially taking over the planet without any regard to the well-being of the other species on the planet. Okay, now the 2-minute story I would like to say is about my grandson, Connor. I don't like to tell my grandchildren about that there's a problem, that I don't like them to worry, because children can become very concerned. They can take things very seriously, and you don't want to scare young children. So I never mention this. What I do is try to introduce my grandchildren to nature. So, for example, we plant milkweeds for the monarch butterfly. But 3 years ago, I was giving a talk in the backyard at a beach house where we were staying with a friend, and I thought the grandchildren had all gone to bed, except Sophie, who's the oldest, and she's now 17 years old, so it's okay for her to know about this story. And in fact, she's a co-plaintiff on a lawsuit against Obama and the federal government. But Connor was 5 years younger. He was only 8 years old. I thought he was in bed. Well, at the end of my talk, my wife noticed Connor in the back row, and there were tears running down his cheeks. Connor is very sensitive. He's frustratingly quiet, but he's a very sensitive boy and a very kind boy. So my wife quickly went to him and said, "Oh, don't worry, Connor. Grown-ups are working on this problem. They're going to solve the problem." Yeah, we should be solving the problem. But 3 years later, when his older sister is doing things and being a plaintiff on a lawsuit and things, and he said he wanted to do something too. So he talked with his mother, and then he wrote down his thoughts, and I want to show those on the final chart, because he captured some really important points. first of all, he recognized, he says, unless we can figure out how to make a time machine that actually works, there's going to be no way to fix this. And that is the fundamental issue with this problem. The system has inertia. So we've only felt half of the response due to the gases already in the atmosphere. So if we don't solve the problem now, we're going to hand young people a situation in which the only way they can fix it is with a time machine. And who believes that you actually have one? And the other thing that he concluded was, grown-ups are scared of nuclear power. But he says they should be scared of climate change. We know that using fossil fuels is not safe. It is very dangerous. And we have to face the fact that this danger of fossil fuels is staring us in the face. It's absolutely 100% certain that we've got a very dangerous situation. And for us to say, oh, we're not going to use all the tools that we have to try to solve it is crazy. We have to use all of the things that we have at our disposal. And clearly, nuclear power, next generation nuclear power especially, has tremendous potential to be a big part of the solution. Thanks.